Loyalty, family, and resilience have been personified by Mark Consuelos and Kelly Ripa. However, at this moment, an alarming truth has surfaced. A cancer diagnosis has shaken Mark Consuelos' family to their very core. He is a beloved actor, husband, and father. Even America's favorite morning anchor, Kelly Ripa, has broken down in public displays of emotion as she has found the news to be too much to bear. How did this startling diagnosis come to be? Kelly, how are you overcoming obstacles and moving ahead? How does this affect the trajectory of a beloved marriage in our country? Keep reading because I'm about to tell you a story that will touch your heart with its mixture of sadness, optimism, and the kind of love that can triumph over everything. Not from the press, but from within Mark and Kelly's home. Hushed conversations began. Adjustments to Mark's health that are not too significant. Weariness that persisted for an abnormally long time. A persistent hacking cough. Even if these were just little clues, Kelly did not miss them. Mark first disregarded it. His family could always count on him since he was the rock, the vivacious one. Something wasn't right though, according to Kelly. It is always detectable by a companion. Even though everyone was staring at the same cheerful Mark Consuelos on TV, a silent threat was developing behind the scenes and would eventually become terrifyingly obvious. Their lives were forever changed by the consultation that followed. As soon as the physicians uttered the words out loud, everything seemed to spin around. Cancer was Mark Consuelos' illness. It was unbelievable to Kelly. What gave this man, with whom she had spent her whole adult life, the strength to suddenly face such adversity? Cancer is an incredibly potent word. Many of you who are viewing this may have had relatives impacted by it. You also get that it's not merely a medical word. Your entire being is trembled by this seismic event. It was at that moment that Kelly thought she couldn't breathe, as she would later admit. When she looked at Mark, she saw more than just her husband. She saw the father of her children, the one she loved most in the world, and the partner she couldn't fathom a life without. However, Mark, who never wavered, said to her, "We will overcome this with each other." Kelly Ripa has been making mornings brighter for millions of people for decades. Just days after Mark's diagnosis, she made an appearance on her show, and her voice faltered. Tears welled up in her eyes, and her veneer crumbled. This was the first time the normally composed host had to keep her cool in front of the camera. She told her listeners that she and her loved ones were going through a really tough time. Her sensitivity conveyed every information, even though she didn't divulge every aspect at that moment. Not simply a TV personality, America witnessed. What they witnessed was a woman who was petrified of being left alone by her husband. As she sobbed, millions of people could relate to her anxieties. Because we are all connected by the universal experiences of love, fear, and sadness. However, Kelly's emotional moment marked the beginning of a journey accompanied by restless nights and unending inquiries. The news broke the hearts of Michael, Lola, and Joaquin, their children. The thought that your father, who was always there to support you, sharing your joys and sorrows, and offer wise counsel, is suddenly battling cancer, must be difficult for you to wrap your head around. A choice was reached by Kelly and Mark. Transparency. Gathering their children in one place, they revealed the truth to them. They promised each other that they would get through this together as a family, through thick and thin. Still, Kelly secretly took it upon herself to encourage her loved ones to have a positive outlook. To spare her children the brunt of her pain, she sobbed in private. This is for the parents out there. Appreciate that inclination, the one to seem resilient in front of your children, even while your personal life is crumbling. Kelly had that much on her shoulders, and it was nearly too much. One fateful night, the whole system was on the brink of collapse. Due to a worsening of his condition, Mark was transferred to the intensive care unit. The incident was a haze in Kelly's account. Medications teams hurriedly passing by, lights flashing, people moving quickly. In a hospital waiting area, she sobbed uncontrollably, sure that her worst nightmare was coming true. Hurriedly, doctors worked their magic. It seemed like an hour passed every minute. Kelly prayed more fervently than before during those agonizing hours. He was too much for her to bear to part with. At its lowest point, the incident in the intensive care unit was their ordeal. However, a sliver of optimism emerged with the dawn. Doctors provided cautious updates following hours of tension. Mark was no longer in critical condition. It was still early in the battle. He had succeeded, at least for the time being. Cradling his hand tightly, Kelly returned to his room, his expression adamant. "I will not leave you." Speaking softly, She reminded him of their children, their shared existence, and the love that could overcome any illness. It was just a beginning. It wasn't a full recovery. Kelly clung to that glimmer of hope amidst the sterile, beeping atmosphere of the intensive care unit. A whirlwind of medical terminology, whispered discussions with doctors, and the excruciating ups and downs of anxiety and relief filled the hours that followed. Stable was a delicate word, yet Mark was stable. The fight has only just started. The incident in the intensive care unit was just the beginning of a brutal conflict for which they were unprepared. Although it was a triumph to get him home, the burden of his care was now squarely on their shoulders, namely Kelly's. Once a hive of activity with their 3 young children and their careers, the home they had worked so hard to create now seemed like a ghost town. In addition to serving as a private hospital, it became into a haven and a stronghold. Medication schedules, doctors' visits, and the violent treatment protocols associated waves of illness became the new schedule dictators, displacing production meetings and school activities. But when you're Kelly Ripa, the world doesn't pause for personal grief. With this, the heartbreaking duality, the most challenging part of her life began. Sitting in her car in the studio garage, she would take a few painful seconds every morning to compartmentalize. After a restless night of watching Mark's breathing, she would apply the bright lipstick that was part of her public costume and check her mirror, removing the black circles. Kelly Ripa, the morning ray of sunshine for Americans, would emerge the moment she stepped foot in the studio. She would engage in humorous conversation with her co-hosts, interview famous people, and laugh at jokes. Even though she left home, a piece of her spirit stayed behind to be with Mark in his bed. Having witnessed her unfiltered breakdown, her viewers now watched with a blend of admiration and worry. Even though she smiled, the brightness had faded from her eyes, and they betrayed a sadness and weariness that only those who have experienced genuine terror could understand. Even though it was exhausting, she was delivering her best acting performance to date. Mark battled with an understated, unyielding ferocity. Everyone in their family had relied on this man physically for as long as they could remember, the one whose vitality had no limits. He had entered a battle with his own physical self. At his worst, he would lie in bed all day long, unable to get the energy to face the day. When he was weak and frustrated from the treatment, that was a day. The impact on Kelly was something he despised. He witnessed her attempting to keep it all together. All of them. The show, the house, the kids, and him. Kel, you don't need to be so strong. One night, he spoke to her in a low, raspy voice. Crouched in a chair by his bed, she had dozed off as she read to him. Tears that she hadn't noticed were falling fell into her eyes when she opened them, the faint hallway light revealing them. I'm not, she said, her voice quivering. It's terrifying me. I simply am not allowing you to see it. I see it, he exclaimed, his palm extended in a plea. My fear is too great for you to see. We make a lovely couple, don't you think? Painstakingly, she made her way to the bed, where she lay down next to him and gently grasped his hand. She echoed the words again and over, turning them into a prayer and mantra for them to confront the situation together. Unrelenting public criticism ensued. The gates had been unlocked by Kelly's breakdown. No event was ever free from paparazzi. They fired with their long lens in an attempt to get one stunning shot. Speculation regarding Mark's unknown ailment flooded the headlines. A roar had replaced the whispering. Despite their great preference for privacy, the family felt compelled to draw the curtains and erect even taller barriers. A united statement was settled upon. It broke my heart because it was so straightforward, yet succinct. They verified that Mark was dealing with a major health issue and receiving treatment. They expressed gratitude to the public for their support, but they emphasized the importance of privacy for their children and family at this challenging time. Even if it put an end to the most outrageous rumors, the statement just added fuel to the global anxieties. It was a life or death struggle for the golden pair. Michael, Lola, and Joaquin's lives were completely turned upside down. The sight of their once invincible father becoming so weak sent shivers down their spines. Even though they were adults, they all came together, although in different ways. Michael, being the eldest, assumed the role of a resolute guardian, managing the household's logistics and preventing outside intrusion in an effort to keep his parents safe. Lola, who was always perceptive, became Kelly's silent confidant. She would sit with Kelly, make tea, and be there for her when she needed someone to talk to or just someone to listen. The youngest, Joaquin, tried to lighten the mood by telling his dad jokes about his time in college, which was just what his dad needed. Something to remind him of the exciting world beyond his confines. An alarming illness took hold, causing a high temperature and an abrupt increase in his white blood cell count, right as a precarious habit was starting to take root. Quite common, yet potentially fatal, for those whose immune systems are already weak. The hospital was their first stop upon their return. The fear was the same for Kelly, even if it wasn't in the intensive care unit. Once again, she felt the earth give way under her feet. She cried out to her son, saying, "I'm not able to handle this." Michael within the immaculate halls of the hospital. "I can't lose him." Michael embraced her, his own reddened eyes betraying his dread. "Mom, I don't think you will. I'm a fighter, Dad. The way you fight is impressive."